This is going to be a quick overview on Raiden Shogun, and I will just go over to what I think are the most important points to keep in mind with Raiden Shogun. So yeah, let's get started. Her talent should be 6, 9, 10 for the best effect. Elemental skill should be at level 9 as the skill gives elemental burst damage bonus when it is active. Elemental burst deals massive damage and restores energy when Muso Ishin or when she normal attacks with her sword. Energy Restoration has a 1-second cooldown when hitting an enemy for a maximum of 5 procs, and the energy restored caps out at level 10. Remember that her restoration is flat energy, not particles, so the energy recharge stat of other party members does not affect the energy restored. Though Raiden's second Ascension skill does increase energy restored from burst along with electro damage bonus for every energy recharge percent above the base 100% Raiden has. Resolve stacks increases damage output of Raiden's elemental burst and are gained when party members uses their burst, and is consumed when Raiden uses her own burst. C0 is absolutely fine for on-field damage and battery support. C1 makes it easier to fill resolve stacks for more damage, though it's not recommended. Constellation should be at C2 minimum for a hyper carry comp and C3 for the highest damage output. Any Constellation above C3 is redundant, and keep in mind that C2 and C3 have no gameplay changes and is just a major damage increase. Also, C2 and C3 can prevent energy restoration since they deal so much damage and you may end up killing the enemy before using Muso Ishin normal attacks. Artifact should be the 4-set Emblem of Severed Fate, as it is the best in slot by a mile. You should also use an Electro Goblet and crit rate crit damage hat depending on your crit ratios. I do recommend at least 65% crit rate. You should use an ER Sands over attack percent Sands because from my testing, they are both similar damage output, and ER Sands helps with elemental burst uptime. I do also recommend 200% ER stat just for consistency, and attack percent is the best substat to get after a decent crit rate crit damage ratio. For weapons, yeah, go check KQM. I don't have every weapon, but either way, having engulfing lightning means ER is just as good as attack percent, but C2 is better than engulfing. For gameplay, use Raiden's elemental skill first for the bonus elemental burst damage, and use Raiden's own elemental burst after every team member has used their own elemental burst for maximum resolve stacks. KQM has the results for best Muso Ishin combos, but I like to start with 3 Muso Ishin normals and end with a charge attack. I do that combo 3 times during Muso Ishin. A general team comps Raiden can be put in is obviously Raiden National. It's the best all-around team for Raiden and the best free-to-play team in the game. Raiden Hyper Carry is only viable at C2, and to be honest, running a Hyper Carry comp at C0 kinda sucks. She also has the synergy to battery Eula and apply Electro off-field with her elemental skill for Superconduct. Overall, Raiden is a very solid character and differentiates herself from other hyper carries by dealing damage and restoring energy. The issue I have with hyper carries is that most of them have a very hard time being supported, or they require exotic supports and don't really benefit the team outside of raw damage output. Raiden becomes such a helpful character when a lot of good characters have a 70 to 80 cost elemental burst, and Raiden can just restore more or less 20 flat energy depending on her own energy recharge stat. Her damage is already good with her battery capability, but unlocking C2 or even C3 makes her damage output absurd. Being an Electro character has its benefits by having access to Electro Charge, which is an incredibly strong elemental reaction, and not being required to vaporize or melt like most pyro characters to deal damage. Raiden does not have to worry about the same things that pyro characters have to do, such as managing ICD and hydro/cryo application. I will say that Raiden is worth picking up from her damage and battery capability even at C0. She's very straightforward and not very difficult to play, which makes her really enjoyable. Raiden also doesn't have an ounce of clunkiness while being very strong. The only downside to her is that her elemental burst is at a 90 cost, but that's mitigated through the amount of energy recharge she will build with her artifacts, along with the energy restoration of her elemental burst. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me. If you've stayed this far, thanks, and I'll see you later.